Hello folks and welcome back to True Crime Phenomenon. This is Josh coming back with another full-length Jeremy Dewitte video. And just as another courtesy reminder to my friends over at YouTube, you have already approved all of these for monetization, so please don't arbitrarily demonetize this video. Thank you so much, and I'll catch you all on the next one. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe, and have a wonderful day.
I'm Sergeant Justin Wall of the Orange County Sheriff's Office Professional Standards Section. Today's date is May 10th, 2021, and the current time is 10:54 a.m. This interview has been conducted at the Office of Professional Standards located at 2500 West Colonial Drive. I'm interviewing. Can you state your rank and name for me?
Lieutenant Calvin Wacker.
Okay. Lieutenant Wacker, are you aware that I'm recording this interview?
Yes, sir.
Has anyone threatened, coerced, or offered you any preferential treatment to give this statement?
No, sir.
Are you under the influence of drugs or alcohol that may impair your testimony?
No, sir.
Raise your right hand so I can swear you in. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're to provide will be true and correct?
I do.
Okay. All right. So as we briefly discussed, I'm conducting an investigation into an administrative investigation into Sergeant Vidler and Corporal Ramsey in regards to their conduct with Mr. Jeremy Dewitte. First off, what's your current rank and your responsibilities?
I'm the lieutenant over the motors unit.
And were those your responsibilities on March 23rd, 2021?
Yes, sir.
Were you aware that Sergeant Vidler had made an arrest on Mr. Dewitte on March 23rd?
Yes, sir. He called me.
Were you present for the arrest?
No, sir.
All right. Were you present at the office later on when Mr. Dewitte was brought back to the Sector 4 substation?
No, sir.
Okay. How did you become aware? You said he called you.
He called me. Standard operating procedure with Metro State has been since day one. Called the captain. Captain put it upstairs, and then it came back down. So I called acting captain Crabb, said that Vidler had arrested him on I-4. Crabb asked me to have Vidler write him an email so he could forward it up to the major, I believe. And I called Vidler back. I said, when you get a chance, send me an email that states your PC and all that other stuff. I went over to Harley-Davidson to talk to Rob, the mechanic over there. Some time passed. I never got the email, so I called Vidler. I said, where is the email? He said, I'm with Crabb. And I said, okay, well then don't worry about it. And that's kind of the end of mine. I went to lunch with Rob Crane and Yuri Melich right after that. And everything else that happened, I found out about the next day, I guess, for the most part.
So when did you first become aware about the arrest? Did Sergeant Vidler call you?
He called me.
Did he call you on the traffic stop or after?
He just called me and said, I've just arrested Jeremy Dewitte.
Okay.
I think that was his words, but he, yeah.
Okay. Did you get the impression he was still on the traffic stop?
Yes.
Okay. So what did he tell you the charges were?
I don't know that I asked. Oh, he said carrying concealed weapon.
Okay. Did he kind of describe to you the circumstances or his PC?
No. He just told me. I said, are you alone up there? And he said, no, Reeves is with me.
Okay. So he didn't go into...
No, sir.
Here's...
No.
He said carrying concealed weapon, but he didn't tell you his actual circumstances behind how he could reach that.
If he did, it was brief, but I don't remember that conversation if we had it. He just said he may have told me he was, and I may have learned this afterwards too, that he was going up I-4. He saw two Metro State bikes. He looked at the one and he saw what appeared to be a handgun in the holster, and he stopped him.
Okay. So were you aware at that time when you first talked to him on the traffic stop that the weapon he was referring to was a pepper ball gun?
No, sir.
But you knew it wasn't a firearm, right? He said carrying concealed weapon specifically. It wasn't carrying concealed firearm charge, right?
I remember him saying carrying concealed weapon. As has been standard operating procedure, I said, well, I got to run it up because it's Dewitte. So I think I disconnected and I called Crabb and told him.
Okay. So do you believe there's probable cause based on what Sergeant Vidler told you?
During the traffic stop?
Probable cause
Now
for the
or
arrest?
when?
At the time of the traffic stop, when he first explained to you what was going on.
I didn't question him about the probable cause.
Okay. He just told you I have PC for, or
He said
I
I arrested him for carrying a concealed weapon.
Okay. So you said after that you went to lunch. Did you ever go back to the Sector 4 substation
No,
when they
sir.
were conducting an interview?
No. I don't think I found out about the interview until the following morning when we were doing the funeral escort.
Okay.
Because I didn't talk to, the only conversation I had after that was that I think Crabb called me in the afternoon and said, hey, they're having Vidler on arrest. And I said, oh, okay. And then that following morning I found out that they called back, supposedly. So what I'm getting from Crabb, that they said, don't worry about unarresting him, he's bonding out. And then I found out the next morning he was still in jail because Osceola, I guess, had put a hold on him or something like that. So that's...
Okay.
But the interview and stuff, I didn't know that was conducted until the following morning.
Okay. So as Sergeant Vidler's supervisor, did you question him further as to anything about the probable cause for the arrest, or you just took his word for it?
No, I took his word for it, and when he told me that he was with Crabb at the office, I assumed that DeWitte was in jail. He was doing his paperwork at the office, and that he had briefed him in face to face.
Okay. So did you have any part in reviewing any statutes, case law, jury instructions, anything before Mr. DeWitte was booked into jail?
No.
With Mr. Vidler or Sergeant Vidler or
No.
Rick Crabb or anybody?
Nope.
Okay. Did you ever see the pepperball gun? Physically see it?
Maybe a picture.
Okay. But not the actual gun.
No, it would have been a few days later, too.
Okay. So seeing the pepperball gun in the holster, a picture of it, do you believe that meets the definition of a concealed weapon?
I believe later on I was shown the jury instructions on a concealed weapon. And then you also have to realize that DeWitte's a convicted felon. So, I mean, I'd have to go into it deeper, but yeah, because here's how we used to differentiate between DeWitte and their weapons. All his weapons used to have a CO2 cartridge, silver one, it stuck out of the butt plate of here, and this one did not. And I don't know what kind of projectiles this one fired or anything like that, because like I said, I didn't see the weapon itself.
Okay.
I was just told it was a pepperball gun.
Okay. But do you believe, you said afterwards, you said you reviewed the jury instructions?
I think Keith showed them to me when there was started to be some questions. It might have been during the funeral when we were waiting.
So the day after?
And he said, these are the jury instructions. Yeah. And I read them, and yeah, it kind of fits into the jury instructions as to what a concealed firearm is. Because you have no way of differentiating between what's in that holster. To me, it looks like open carry, because it could be an open carry weapon, and that may have been a better charge. I don't know. But, you know, the weapon's concealed, and you don't know it's a pepperball gun until, you know. I'll tell you what, if you pulled it on me, I'd shoot.
Yeah, and I don't know that.
There's no way to differentiate between that firearm and a real firearm.
Okay, so that was kind of what you discussed about the concealed part of it.
We never.
Can you? I guess
we really never
question
discussed it. I think because Sergeant Vidler was being questioned about the PC and told to unarrest. I think that's how we got in a conversation, and I
this
think
was the following day.
Following day, or maybe the day after. Yeah,
Okay.
it wasn't the day of.
Okay.
Like I said, other than the call from Crabb saying they just ordered us to unarrest him. That was all. That's the only thing that I had to do with any of it after the initially calling Crabb and telling him.
Okay.
And telling Keith.
But my question is, like, here's a firearm in a holster, right?
Yep.
Is this concealed?
Per the jury instructions, yeah.
Based on what?
Have you read the jury instructions?
have.
It says that.
I have them actually.
Well, it basically says there's something in there that basically says that the weapon does not have to be totally concealed to be a concealed weapon, which means if you've got it under your coat and someone sees it, that's technically concealed. I think it's this big one.
I think it's this paragraph here. Ordinary sight.
Yeah. The term ordinary sight of another person means that casual, ordinary observation of another normal not be completely hidden for
Right.
you to find that it was concealed.
Well, how about the next sentence?
However, a weapon is not concealed if, although not fully exposed, its status as a weapon is detectable as an ordinary observation. I'll write it down. However, a weapon is not concealed if, although not fully exposed, its status as a weapon is detectable by ordinary observation. Okay, so I'm a civilian on the street. Maybe open carry would be a better term, but you cannot distinguish that between whether it's firearm or not.
Okay. And I'm just trying to understand, what the discussion was.
Like I said, there was
afterwards,
no discussion between me or anybody else after the fact. I was just, I got the information from him that he arrested him for concealed weapon. Standard operating procedure from day one on this case was anything that happens goes to the captain goes to the major. Where it went from there, I don't know.
Okay.
And then a decision would come back down. This one probably came a little late.
Okay.
So.
And so, just to be clear, before Mr. Dewitte's booked into jail, you didn't review these jury instructions?
No.
This was all after?
No. I took Sergeant Vidler's on his word that he was carrying a concealed weapon.
Okay.
Never really questioned it other than it was the gun, maybe. But DeWitte's people have been known to carry regular firearms because I think way back in the beginning, one of them was arrested for carrying it. Although he had a license as a security person to carry it, DeWitte doesn't have the license to allow him to carry it. So he was arrested for that. That was one. I actually think that was probably the first time that we got. I say we, Vidler and them got re-involved in it.
Okay. So are you aware of an email sent from General Counsel Austin Moore to Sergeant Vidler in May of 2019 advising that there was nothing illegal about Metro State employees openly carrying pepperball guns?
I'd have to go through all the emails I saved, but I don't recall that off the top of my head.
Okay. Were you aware that during the arrest of Mr. Dewitte and during Corporal Ramsey's subsequent interview, Mr. Dewitte had asserted that he had this email, which obviously contradicted the charges against him?
I'm going to be honest with you. There wasn't a lot of emails during this entire investigation. When I would ask for an email from my captain, I would basically be told, that's public record. It's going to be public record if we do that. We can't do it in emails. So there wasn't a lot. I think I kind of went through. I can go get my computer if you want. But I saved everything that was DeWitte related.
Okay.
Most of it's between Ramsey and all that, and it's just, when they're going to do this, when they're going to do that.
Okay.
There is one from Austin Moore in there, but I didn't read it.
Okay.
So I don't know what it is, but I can go get the computer and you can look at it if you want.
And probably after the interview, you can take a look and see if there's anything that you find relevant.
Right.
But specifically, there is an email from Austin Moore to Sergeant Vidler advising that there's nothing illegal about Metro State openly carrying pepperball guns. So you weren't aware of that email?
Not that I'm aware of. If I got it, I'll look. I'll
Okay.
put it that way. But like I said, there wasn't a lot of email. Let me explain something.
Yeah.
This investigation started. Sandy Carpenter was going direct to Ramsey, direct to Vidler, and I wasn't really in the loop. They would have meetings with Anzueto, Zwig, and all of that, and I would ask Ramsey and Vidler what was said in the meeting. Basically, those were meetings giving them deadlines on their investigation. This is the initial investigation they started. Mm-hmm. Giving them deadlines, and all I would do was make sure that they hit the deadline. As far as the only meeting that I can remember having was with Dewitte, and I couldn't tell you the date. It was the day that Vidler was going up to get some arrest warrants signed, and there was a question about a search warrant, because Vidler had written 2 search warrants, one for Dewitte's house and one for the business. I was told that the attorney, Austin, told him there was no precedence for the search warrant, and he didn't see a precedent for him. And then he kind of, I think he went in and kind of said, you know, this, that, and the other about the search warrant. I know Vidler rewrote the search warrant with his suggestions and had them. I came in one morning, Vidler and Ramsey were in their office working on the case. There was a conversation between Austin Moore and Keith, and I think they were talking about the arrest affidavits that he was going to get signed. I don't know if these were the first ones, second ones, third ones, fourth ones. I don't know. I think it might have been the first 2 that you were going to arrest, but I'm not positive. I listened to part of that conversation, and when Vidler brought up the search warrant, which he had written for the business on South Orange Blossom Trail, Austin didn't say, don't get it signed. And he didn't say, don't serve it at that time. He says, I just don't see precedent, and that's the way I took it. When Vidler went down to get those signed, I said, get them signed and get the search warrant signed. Then I got called over here to talk to Dewitte about it. And I told him they were on their way down to get it signed, and I told him that he was going to get that one search warrant signed. And Dewitte got a little upset, saying that Austin told him not to get any of the search warrants signed. And I said, you know, we won't serve a search warrant without your permission, but you had me put Dewitte's picture in all of these cubbies coming into the building because he had threatened it during the investigation, supposedly it had come out that he was going to, before you go back to jail, he was going to shoot up either the Orange County Sheriff's Office building or the Orlando Police Department. I said, you had me put them all up. If he barricades when they go to arrest him in that building, I said, my old SWAT background tells me they ain't going in without a search warrant. So I told him to get it signed. It won't be served unless you give us permission. And that's where that was left. And they got those signed and all that. But that's might have been off point of the.
That was a conversation with Dewitte?
Yes, sir.
And he gave you permission to serve him?
He did not. I just told him we will ask permission if we need to serve him or we think we need to. And we eventually served it like 2 or 3 days later.
Okay. All right. That was one of my questions. Is the part of the investigation, but I want to go back to the traffic stop real quick. So, were you ever made aware that during Mr. DeWitte's arrest that and the interview with Corporal Ramsey, that Mr. DeWitte had said, "I have this email from General Counsel Austin Moore"?
No.
Had you been made aware that Mr. DeWitte says, "I have this email saying I can carry a pepperball gun from your legal," would you have done anything differently? Would you have intervened?
I always thought it was a state attorney's job to intervene, not staff attorneys, but not taking that away. DeWitte is known to, I'll tell you how DeWitte works, is if I stop him for a traffic violation, he'll tell me that Trooper so-and-so told him, he gets names all the time, said he could do this. And if Trooper so-and-so stops him, then he'll say Lieutenant Wacker said I do it. So I would take, unless he had it there to produce it right now, I would take it as a grain of salt.
Okay. Were you ever made aware that Mr. DeWitte had made multiple requests on the traffic stop and during the interview with Corporal Ramsey to speak with the lieutenant or captain? He asked 17 times on the traffic stop alone to speak with the lieutenant or captain.
I never knew that.
Okay.
I know it now because someone told me that he asked for me a bunch of times, but as soon as this kind of got cracking, I didn't even go and look at the body camera or none of the videos. I figured it'd be locked up by then anyway.
Okay, so given the circumstances surrounding the history between Sergeant Vidler and Corporal Ramsey and Mr. DeWitte, do you believe that's something you should have been made aware of? Hey, he's asking for you.
Yeah, probably.
So if you had known about his request, would you have met with him?
I don't know that I'd have gone up onto I-4. I mean, but I don't know where they were. My biggest concern at that point was that Vidler wasn't alone with him, that Reeves was with him, and that's what I was told. So.
Okay. Did you ever speak with Mr. Dewitte?
I spoke with Mr. Dewitte a day or two after when he wanted his property released. He left a message on my phone, and actually, I talked to him just prior to coming down here. Major Hosey wanted to meet with me and Ramsey. So I called him back, and of course he told me, this has been recording, it's my office. I found out later that he was in a car wash on his cell phone, but he records everything. He says, I want to get my property back. I said, it's been released, because I had told Vidler that morning, if it ain't released, release it, because we were unarrested him. And I told him it was released. He asked me about the motorcycle. I said, well, go down there, and if it's going to cost, he said, who's paying for it? I said, go down there, and if they don't give it back to you without pay, contact the sheriff's office and work that out with them.
Okay.
Instead of doing that, he came down here to the bubble and demanded to see, I don't know who he demanded to see, a whole bunch of people. And I know that because I was sitting in Hosey's office when he got the phone call that he was in there. Yeah, and I'd have to say between that time frame, he probably didn't go to see if he could get his motorcycle back. He just came down here to
okay. But, so you never spoke, you only spoken with him after the arrest?
I spoke to him on the phone to get his property.
Right.
He had called and left a message.
At the time of his arrest, though?
No, I never talked to him that day. I'll be honest with you, I count on one hand how many times I've talked to Mr. Dewitte.
Okay.
Probably twice.
Do you know if any lieutenants or captains spoke with Mr. Dewitte that day? Were you?
I have no idea.
Okay. Did you review the body-worn camera of the traffic stop?
I did not.
You said you were not present for the subsequent interview by Corporal Ramsey. Did you watch that interview on
did
body-worn
not.
camera? I'm sorry.
I saw part of it. I'll
Okay.
put it that way. I saw part of it. I think one of the guys was watching it one morning because I think that's on some website, and he was watching it. But I got better things to do than watch 200 interview with Dewitte.
Okay. In the portion that you saw, did you see anything that concerned you?
No, it was kind of the beginning of it, I think.
All right. Other than what you've already discussed, what is your knowledge of the investigation with Sergeant Vidler and Corporal Ramsey that they're working against Mr. Dewitte and Metro State?
You mean
I know you kind of went over
as far as
how much knowledge do you have of the investigation?
Of the charges that they brought against him and all that, or which one are you talking about?
The whole
last
investigation.
One? Well, I was there from day one.
Okay.
But, like I said, it was kind of between the captain, Ramsey, and Vidler.
Okay.
They would have meetings, and if there was a meeting above the captain, I never got invited to those.
Okay.
I can't recall one that I was at. I would get called into the captain's office every once in a while to, I don't know, it was more to, I don't want to say chew me out, but to make sure that Vidler, and I got to be honest, I told Captain Carpenter at one point, I said, I'm taking direction from a sergeant and a corporal because I am not privy to any of these meetings with anybody. It's you and them. And he get a little upset, and he wrote me up, gave me counseling for him for some other stuff after that. But yeah.
So, are you aware of Sergeant Vidler contacting insurance companies regarding Mr. DeWitte's personal or business insurance policies?
I think that was mentioned that they were, because during the initial investigation, he had no insurance on the vehicles, or it was somebody else's insurance. I don't know, but I think that was mentioned in passing with.
Mentioned in what context?
That the insurance companies were looking at him for having either. He's running a business, but I think he had, personal insurance. I don't know.
Okay, so were you aware that Sergeant
I
Vidler
didn't
was the
know
one
how.
contacting?
I didn't know that. No, I mean I knew that there was insurance companies were involved.
Okay.
IRS was involved. I mean, in the beginning, this was going to go RICO. This whole case.
Okay. Specifically with the insurance companies, is that common practice? You've been in the motor unit for how long?
Well, I don't know if it's common practice. In what aspect? I mean, if you mean I stop
You pull
somebody
over for not having insurance.
I write them a
is it
ticket, and they go
common?
prove that they have insurance to get the ticket taken away, or they take it to court and prove it in front of a judge.
Okay. Would you ever say it's common practice to call the insurance company and have conversations
I don't
with
know
the insurance
that.
companies?
I don't know that this investigation would be called common practice for the motor unit.
Okay.
I think it was just kind of because it was traffic. They've got, yeah.
Okay. Are you aware of Sergeant Vidler contacting private businesses that are clients of Mr. DeWitte's company? So Mr. DeWitte has a
I
funeral
believe
service and-
I believe they were during the investigation. I think they were contacting some of the funeral homes or the people that were hiring him to try and get receipts and stuff to show whatever that was to show. But I think they contacted some of the funeral homes.
Okay. So you believe that was part of the investigation?
I know it was.
And are you aware of Sergeant Vidler communicating to those companies about Mr. DeWitte's transgressions? So
No, sir.
disseminating his criminal information?
No, sir.
So as a manager, if you became aware of a deputy or any subordinate sergeant, anybody telling private businesses about the transgressions
Character.
of the character of one of their
I believe that
somebody
was
they're doing
done.
business with,
I
do you
believe that
that's
was
appropriate.
I believe that was done in this office
Okay.
by your lieutenant to Counselor Breen when he came down to make a complaint on. As it was told to me, the complaint was going to go away because they were going to tell basically the attorney looking for a word, what his bad guy was, or bad, I said, how you doing that? I said, you can't show them they said they were just going to explain to them his character, and that was, because
How did you become aware of that? What conversation did
well,
you
I got a complaint, I believe, or I got a call from either Dewitte or from the carpenter that there was a complaint coming down from attorney, I think it's Breen, and I might have talked to Dewitte on the phone, and I said, what's the deal or whatever, and he said, hey, we're gonna take care of it. We're gonna have. I think the lieutenant down here sat down with him when he brought the way it was explained to me. Like I said, it was told to me was they were going to explain to him that his client wasn't the greatest person in the world, and that and the ending of that was I was told Bream said I was just asked to drop it off. I'm not making a complaint. And he walked out.
Okay.
And that's a video of something that happened up in Lake County or something.
Okay. And that was a complaint that
It
was
has
brought
nothing
forward.
to do with this, as far as I can. Yeah.
But so as far as Sergeant Vidler going to these businesses and speaking to the character of somebody that they do business with, do you feel that that's appropriate?
I don't know that he did that.
Okay. Well, if he did do it, if there's an accusation that he did do it, do you feel that
Well,
that's appropriate
I
for a
wouldn't.
deputy?
No, I wouldn't say that it's appropriate.
Okay.
Yeah.
In other words, if it was done with the intention of disrupting
His business.
Mr. DeWitte's business, would that be appropriate? For
Well,
somebody
I
wearing
don't see a
uniform?
problem with telling these people that what he's doing is a violation of almost every traffic statute in the state of Florida, and that he's not, licensed, bonded, or whatever. I don't see a problem with that. I think you're looking out more for the business than you are, Mr. DeWitte and
So if it's specific to the traffic,
yeah, hey,
stuff.
that what he's doing is not, running red lights, stopping people, he's
Okay.
violating traffic statutes. I don't see that that's a problem.
okay. What about if he's passing on information that Mr. DeWitte had raped somebody and in the past and things like that?
Oh, I don't know that he did that, but I mean, I don't think a deputy can talk about anybody's criminal history, can they? I don't know. I mean, I don't see a problem with, telling somebody, yeah, he's a convicted felon.
Okay. From your discussions with and I know you said they were brief and they mostly occurred after the arrest, specific to the March 23rd incident. But did Sergeant Vidler or Corporal Ramsey make any statements regarding their history with Mr. Dewitte and how that may have impacted or influenced their decision to make a physical arrest on that day?
There was a conversation in the major's office a few days later with Ramsey and me. And I took that conversation to be the major warning Ramsey to stay away from DeWitte and Metro State. And when the major was talking about this, Ramsey looked at me and goes, well, I interviewed him. And I thought the major was a little put back by that. He didn't know that. Yeah, whether he did or not, I don't know. What was his question?
Well, did either of them make any statements that their history with Mr. DeWitte had impacted their decision to make an arrest? Basically,
Oh, I know where I was getting with that. In that conversation, Ramsey made a statement to Major Hosey that they had been told by Austin, and now I'm taking this from what I heard him tell the major, had been told by Austin that if they saw Metro State going down the road with their gun belts on with what appeared to be a gun in their holster, they had probable cause to stop them. And Ramsey even went on to say, I question that, just that stop. And Ramsey said that they were told by Austin that they had probable cause to stop them if they looked like they were carrying a firearm. And that statement was made.
Okay. So Ramsey made the statement that Austin Moore told him he could stop them if
they saw them, if you saw them on the road and it looked like they were carrying firearms, which
okay.
They always do. So that was made to Major Hosey. And
so you can stop them. Corporal Ramsey's impression from his discussion with Austin Moore is that you can stop them.
You had probable cause to stop them. Well, I don't think that we didn't go into that part of it.
Okay.
But because I know Ramsey even questioned the legality of just stopping somebody on a motorcycle with a gun strapped to their hip or whatever. But here's the thing: everybody assumes with Metro State that those are just pepper ball guns. Mm-hmm. But you don't know. That's the problem. And I can tell you that the citizens out there in Orange County don't know that that's a pepper ball gun when he's pounding on the hood of their car and all this stuff. They just can't.
I guess where I'm getting to is that all these things that I've mentioned, calling the insurance companies, disseminating information to Mr. DeWitte's businesses. Sergeant Vidler, I know you said you didn't watch the body camera of the traffic stop, but he immediately or at least calls out to Jeremy as he's conducting the traffic stop. Mm-hmm. He's calling out to Jeremy. It almost some of these things give the impression that it's almost like a personal thing. Obviously, Sergeant Vidler and Jeremy DeWitte know each other from their interactions, and so it almost seems like it's personal. Would you agree with that?
I'll just put it this way: Keith Vidler's a pit bull, and when he gets onto something, he usually he continues. And I think that's why Sandy Carpenter gave him this assignment when this all came up. And he's tenacious. But as far as the traffic stop, I don't think Keith Vidler would go out of his way to just go out of his way to do something with DeWitte unless he had what he believed were charges.
Okay. Do you know of any ill will between that Sergeant Vidler or Corporal Ramsey have towards
Not that I'm aware
Mr.
of.
DeWitte? So, to your knowledge, has there been? I know you kind of alluded to it or mentioned it, but what were the standing orders when it came? Other than for you to call the captain, were there any orders to not stop Metro State or to not interact with them, or what was the standing orders?
Metro State, when I was a cross trainer years and years ago, and I think Krantz was in the unit, Metro State was doing the same stuff. The unit had been told by Krantz at the time, and this is all hearsay and talk, leave them alone, let them be. Then, and I even had to ask Ramsey, I said, how did this get started with Metro State again? And he says that Sandy Carpenter got blocked by him and then brought it up and a few other things. And then Anzueto was new. They got talking and everybody seemed like, yeah, these guys are violating the law every day. Let's shut it down. And I think that was kind of the start of the whole thing. I think what really got it rolling was, I think it's Mahoney from Narcotics got mixed up in one of their funerals. And I don't know if you've watched the videos of their funerals.
Yep.
If you get in there, he'll beat on the hood of your car. Yep. He'll hold on to his gun, his pepper ball gun. And Mahoney called OPD. OPD got there, called Vidler because they knew he had dealings with them before. And Vidler, there was 4 of them there, and Vidler says, anybody check to see if these are all handguns? Mm-hmm. And they took them, and the one guy was carrying a handgun. And that's the guy, he had a Class C, I think, if I got my letters right. And they arrested him for carrying a weapon. And I don't know what the charges were on that. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of where everything started rolling. They started with statements from Mahoney and his wife. They were in fear. Mm-hmm. Mahoney said he didn't pull his gun, but the guy's got his hand on his gun. He's got his kids in the car and everything like that. Yep. So
yeah, and
that's kind of how it all started.
And that's so to your knowledge, that's kind of how it kicked off again.
Yeah.
So what? Yeah. Was there any most recent orders?
There was nothing. I even asked Major Hosey this when I was in there with Ramsey. He started alluding, stay away, and to Ramsey. And I looked at him and I said, we have told the whole unit, and this was like a few days after the arrest, I said, we just told the whole unit to just ignore them unless they're doing a capital felony or something, just go the other way basically. And I said, but why couldn't that have been told when they wrapped this investigation up by someone up above us and said, just leave them alone until the cases are cleared out? And that was never told that I know of to the agent, to the unit. It was never told to me, and I never told it to my guys, because I don't know that it was ever passed down that we weren't to do anything with Metro State if they were speeding, blocking roadways, or anything like that.
Okay, so that was after the incident. So at the time of the incident, on that day, what was the standing order regarding Metro State? There
was none.
Okay.
That I know of.
If you saw them committing a crime,
traffic infraction, whatever, yeah, you can
take action. That
was right to take.
Okay. All right. Let me ask you this. You kind of just talked about the incident with Mahoney and that arrest back then. And one individual was arrested for having an actual firearm. One Metro State individual was arrested for having an actual firearm. The other ones did have
pepper ball guns, I believe. Yeah.
So I guess I'm trying to figure out. Sergeant Vidler was there that day, and
he was called by OPD.
He was called by OPD, and but I believe it was Sergeant Vidler, right, that said, "Hey, has anybody checked these guns?" And
yeah,
and
that's what I understand. Yeah.
Once he learns that they're pepper ball guns,
the 2 guys with pepper ball guns, I believe, they I don't know what they did with them, what OPD did with them, but Vidler arrested the guy that was carrying the gun, and then he's the one that said, "Hey, I'll give you information on Metro State."
Okay.
And I kind of, that's what kind of started everything. But I don't think
they were carrying pepper ball guns that day, I'm trying to figure out what changed between that day. It's not a crime. Sergeant Vidler didn't arrest them for carrying the pepper ball guns that day. or any other time that he's interacted with them, and then on this day,
You got to
he's
ask him.
carrying a pepper ball gun.
I have no idea.
So I'm just asking, to your knowledge, did anything change? Any discussions happen?
Other than the pepper ball gun he had looked like a real firearm as opposed to a pepper ball gun with the CO2 cartridge sticking out the bottom.
Okay. To your knowledge, has there been any discussion about Metro State carrying pepper ball guns in the past that you've been a part of prior to this incident?
Well, I was working I was working the Citrus Bowl, whatever it's called, Camping World Stadium one day. Metro State was running a funeral down 441, and they were using their sirens and their horns to take the intersections. I was at the Camping World. Sergeant Dillon at the time, he's a lieutenant now, stopped one of the cars right on the one-way on the south side of OPD headquarters, and I went down there to back him on it.
Mm-hmm.
It was a female, I don't even know her name, refusing to give driver's license, refusing to everything, just being a real nasty person. And he took a picture. I think he was just going to, get rid of her because she was still blocking the intersection. Dewitte showed up. He got there. I went up to him and I said, she's either going to produce a driver's license registration or she's probably going to go to jail. So he started telling her to do that. But prior to Dewitte getting there, when she jumped out of the car, she's in a uniform, facing me and Dillon. I went to do the L. She jumped back, and I really thought she had a firearm on her. And then when she turned back, I could see the little silver cylinder. But I'm telling you, I thought she had a real firearm on her. You cannot differentiate those guns from a real firearm. They don't have any coloring on them. They have nothing. And the only way you could differentiate was that little silver. And we've all said, he's going to do that to somebody in the wrong time, and he's going to get blown out of his socks.
Yeah. To be fair, though, could a real gun have that notch on it as well?
Well, I see more real guns with just flat bottoms.
Right, but could it?
Well, I guess it could have, a real gun could have orange on the top, so it looks like a paintball gun.
Correct.
Yeah. So.
Have you ever seen Mr. Dewitte carrying a pepper ball gun?
He had that on that day.
Okay, and he didn't go to jail for that day.
No, he wasn't even. Nobody went to jail. Dillon, once he got her information, he took a picture and then sent them on their way. He wrote her a bunch of tickets in the mail. And then I think he was at headquarters demanding to see Dillon during the game.
Okay.
So.
Any reason why he didn't go to jail for carrying the concealed weapon, the pepper ball gun?
Because we knew it was a pepper ball gun. Everybody assumes it's a pepper ball gun. And when you turn them around, you can see the cylinder sticking out the bottom.
Okay. So to your knowledge, nothing changed other than that notch. Is that what we're saying? That
well, it isn't a notch. You know what a CO2 cylinder looks like?
Yeah.
On most of their weapons, it's stuck out of the bottom about an inch. You couldn't tell it if I'm standing straight on. Mm-hmm. You had to actually go around back so you could see the side of the weapon, and you would see that sticking out.
Okay. All right. I think that's everything. Is there anything else that you know about this investigation you'd like to add?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. All right. The current time is 11:37 a.m. and that concludes this interview.